Wake up. Wake up. Get up.
Oh, what? I did what you asked. That light is... can you put that light away? Is that okay? Or that's not part of your shtick?
You have more work to do.
Again?
Every single team.
You want me to talk about every single team? Before you made it kind of clear, like you talk about the Timberwolves, you talk about the Pistons, you talk about these teams, and then you won't kidnap me and put me in a room where I can't see a damn thing because of this light, put a bag on my head and like I'm drugged or something. I don't know what's going on.
We wouldn't have had to if you finished your job.
Oh, you wanted me to talk about every team from the jump. I mean, could you clarify that next time? Next time you decide to do something like this, maybe can you make the instructions kind of clear?
We don't care for your excuses. You have until Monday.
I mean, I don't really have a choice, do I?
No.
No. Yeah.
Just slightly annoyed because I did kind of spend 20 minutes doing this video before, and obviously the footage is not really usable for some reason because the camera, I don't exactly know why the footage can't be rendered, it can't be imported, I don't care, I don't know. Now the light in the background is off as well, so that's cool. Thank you. Very nice, very nice. But anyways, we're talking about a move every team from the playoffs should make. I made a video like this on the lottery edition. Check that out after this if you want, or before this. I don't really care. Well, I do, but just thank you. That would be nice. So drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Yeah, that was a little bit frantic, but I am a little bit peeved because obviously I just figured out that I have to record this again, and it does take a little bit of effort to talk about every single team in the playoffs. Obviously not named the Phoenix Suns or the Milwaukee Bucks, but let's get into it right now, and let's talk about the guy that was newly crowned Pandemic P, Kristaps Porzingis. Do I think he's Pandemic P? No, because I think the Dallas Mavericks should keep him. Why do I think the Dallas Mavericks should keep him? I think there's a couple of reasons. One of those reasons is his trade value right now is just rock bottom. It is absolutely rock bottom. You don't want to sell when he's at rock bottom, and I think he can still climb up. It's not like he's just an unusable player that's going to be terrible for the rest of his career. No, we know Kristaps Porzingis has talent. We saw that talent this year just in the playoffs. It was bad. It was bad in the playoffs. There's absolutely no escaping that, but I think you look back to the bubble last year where he averaged 30 and 10, or the second half of last season where he averaged 26 and 10. He was getting to the free throw line more. He was getting utilized more. He was doing a lot of things that he can do, and they were just utilizing him more on offense. He was healthy. He did have some merit when he said that the Mavericks don't treat him like a second star, which is true. But at the same time, he also needs to take accountability. Sometimes it's unfortunate that he gets injured. I don't blame that on a person. I never would. But I also think at the same time, you got to be realistic. If you're consistently on the sidelines, how can a team treat you like a second star? Because they don't know what they're going to get from you night in and night out, because you're either injured or you're coming back from an injury. There's a lot of things why it's hard to treat you like a second star. But if you can consistently stay healthy and do what you did last year, then they should have no problems trading him like a second star. And that's what they got to hope for, because they're not getting anything better in return in a trade. That's all I'll say. Moving from Kristaps to another guy who performed badly in the playoffs and got that kind of pandemic / nickname, Ben Simmons, whatever. Ben Simmons, I actually think Philadelphia should trade him. Couple of reasons. Yes, they're both at rock bottom. Well-ish. I don't think Ben Simmons is at rock bottom. That's the difference. I think there's still teams that would definitely be willing to trade for him, because defensively, he didn't lose any of that value in the playoffs. He still showed what he was capable of in spurts. He also showed what he was capable of offensively. There are teams that would definitely believe if they get Simmons in the right situation, he will work. And then from Philadelphia's perspective, they have someone in Matisse Thybulle. I just watched today. Oh my God, for Australia. That dude is insane. He was so good. So Philadelphia fans, get more excited. He looks like he's improving another notch. He was unbelievable. He was everywhere, and he looked good offensively as well. So that's what I need to talk about. Matisse Thybulle, when you've got Ben Simmons, all you think about is the defense you're going to lose. The playmaking as well. His offense is cool, but like defensively is where he's a special talent as of right now. So you're going to lose that. But you have someone who is almost just as good defensively, potentially could be better. I know that seems like a hot take, but I think everyone agrees Matisse Thybulle is one of the best defenders in the league and could be the best defender in the league, so it's not really a hot take. You've got that waiting to come in, and then also you could trade Simmons for someone who fits your team better, like a CJ McCollum or anyone from the Minnesota Timberwolves, like the likes of those guys that would make a difference from a shot creation standpoint. Just makes a lot of sense. And then talking about a team that could trade for Ben Simmons, Portland Trailblazers, think it's time to make a move. CJ McCollum, I'm sorry, you got to go. I think you have to go. I think we've seen every single possible iteration of this team with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Some people argue Damian Lillard could be the issue. I don't tend to agree with that. Sure, maybe he's not going to win you a championship, but at the same time, I'm not going to blame some of these losses on Dame. I mean, we saw what he did against the Denver Nuggets, and they still lost. So it's not all on Dame. They need to get help. Defensively, they need to be a lot better. I think they re-signed Norman Powell instead. He provides similar production in a secondary, third kind of role as a scorer because he's a good off-ball player, he's a good shooter, he's a good cutter, and he's a better defender than CJ McCollum. And then if you can package up CJ and a couple of other assets and somehow get Ben Simmons, that would be the ideal situation for Portland, in my opinion. Defensively, he adds a lot to this team. Everything they need. They need a lot of things defensively. They need a stopper. They need someone that can guard multiple positions. Ben Simmons does that. And then offensively, all of a sudden you have Ben Simmons and Damian Lillard, and it goes from a terrible fit with Embiid and Simmons, two guys that want to be in the paint, to all of a sudden Dame and Simmons. You get that gravity from Dame. Nurkic could probably just mess off to the three-point line and try to stretch that range. I'm sure they won't have any problems with that. It's not like he's an elite post scorer. He's a decent post operator, but that could really work. So if Portland could somehow manage to make that work, re-sign Norman Powell and get Ben Simmons, that would be a dream off-season for them, in my opinion. And then talking about the Atlanta Hawks, a team that did beat Philadelphia, Cam Reddish. I want to see Cam Reddish start. I know, might seem reactionary because he had a good game. He had a couple of good games in the playoffs, but I think going forward, we all know Cam Reddish is an incredibly talented player. John Collins did show a few weaknesses. When he wasn't getting spoon-fed those lobs and getting all of those easy assists from Trae Young, he did look a little bit vulnerable as a creator. And when you're going to pay someone $25 million a year, you need some creation, particularly if your star player goes out. $25 million a year means that you're supposed to be the guy that steps up. He didn't exactly do that. I think he's still a valuable player. I think he's still a good player. But when you're the Hawks and you have DeAndre Hunter, who fills that role that Collins does defensively in terms of being a big body, being able to help over onto bigs, and also guard better on the perimeter than John Collins, and then Cam Reddish is a versatile guard that can take on guards and take on small forwards and do all of those things defensively, plus has more creation as a shot creator, potential. Right now, John Collins is still a better offensive player because he's more consistent with his shot creation, but Cam Reddish does promise to be a better shot creator at least going forward. And then defensively, I think he just fits his team better. I think John Collins is someone you let go. Unfortunately, just think Cam Reddish is someone going forward. You're going to want him to grow into the best version of himself, and starting him is probably the best way to do that. And then looking at the Utah Jazz, it seems like a pretty simple one. Just pray. Mike Conley. I don't care if you have to give him part ownership. Do what you did with Dwayne Wade. Do whatever you need to do because Mike Conley needs to be there. You're not getting 17 points, 9 assists in the first round of the playoffs from Mike Conley anywhere else. You're not getting that kind of production, that kind of efficiency, that kind of ball handling, that kind of consistency in terms of not turning the ball over. On the average 1.5 turnovers a game in the first series. He's just a steady head. He's still good. He was deserving of an all-star honor. He's a good player, and he's going to consistently be a good player for the next couple of years, in my opinion. Unfortunately, he got injured in the playoffs. I mean, it did kind of even out, more than evened out, because Kawhi Leonard got injured as well. But at the same time, Mike Conley is a guy that, he's got that elite pick-and-roll partnership with Rudy Gobert. He's going to be fine taking that secondary or third option on some nights. He does a lot of things that you want from a player in this situation. Like I said, do anything you need to keep Mike Conley. I'm not keeping track of the financial situation of the Utah Jazz, but that is the guy you want to keep. Above all. Also, Utah, you got to take some responsibility for that putrid defense against the Clippers in Game 6. Rudy Gobert got all the blame, but you guards were terrible defensively. Reggie Jackson walked in there like it was nothing. Like he was playing down the street from my house, and he's playing against amateurs. He was just strolling past them. Open shooter, bang. Open shooter, bang. Rudy Gobert was forced to help over. No one was defending well. Guards need to take some responsibility, get in the gym, and get better defensively because you're not winning anything when your guards are just bad defenders. And I know they were injured, so we'll cut them some slack, but it just wasn't good enough. So simply, you got to improve that as well. But sign Mike Conley. And then talking about the Lakers, a team that is also looking to compete for a championship, it's really one answer. I mean, we can talk about the Kuzmas. I'm going to average 25 points a game in a different situation. All right, Kuzma. On the Shanghai Sharks, on the Beijing Tigers, I don't know the team names, but all right, Kuzma, you can do that. But we don't really care. All I care about if I'm the Lakers is Anthony Davis. Put him in bubble wrap for all I care. I really don't care what you do with him because this man is everything for you. He is everything. Last year in the playoffs, 28-10 on 57% shooting, 40% from three nearly. He's the best defender in the league, in my opinion. I don't think it's close. Well, Giannis has made a case for himself now as well because he's been better in terms of his versatility. But AD, my opinion, best defender. Rim protection is elite. He can switch on to guys. He took on the assignment of guarding Jimmy Butler, coming off a 40-point game, and clamped him up. This guy's 7 foot. The guy is a freak. I was going to swear there. He's a freak defensively. And then offensively, like 30-10, efficient, lob threat, can catch and shoot from three, post up, mid-range. I mean, kind of sums it up. Worst year in like 8 years, still averaged 20-10, but worst year in 8 years. Coming into the playoffs, he had a terrible game 1 against the Phoenix Suns. Game 2 and 3, he drops 34 points in back-to-back games. No one has been able to do that kind of stuff against the Suns since. Giannis just did it, obviously, but Giannis is Giannis, and so is AD. AD is on that level, and they missed him. They need him healthy. Anthony Davis needs to get healthy, and that is the only answer for the Lakers. Kuzma, you probably think you're the issue, but you're not. Like, you're just not that significant to anyone. And then from AD to KD and to the Brooklyn Nets, theirs is a different story. Yes, health is the same thing, but I also think when it comes to the Lakers, they have the flexibility to sign kind of anyone they need to fill that role because they've got more money because it's not as much tied up in 3 players, just 2 guys. But when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, they don't have as much flexibility by any means. So they need to find a way. Get rid of DeAndre Jordan's contract, whatever you have to do to get rid of that absolutely monstrosity that was a bad decision at the time and is a worse decision right now. That's awful. But yeah, get rid of that and then try to sign Blake, Jeff, and Bruce. Yeah, just their first name basis for us, but just try to sign those guys because those are the guys you want to keep. Blake Griffin, mid-level exception. Jeff Green, minimum. Bruce Brown, $7 to $10 million a year. If you can make that work, that would be ideal. And I think there is reason to believe those guys would come back. Blake Griffin, he's secured the bag of all bags. Like, he's got money. He wants to win a championship. He's getting more of a role in this Brooklyn Nets team than he would get on any other contender. It's not even close. Jeff Green, same thing. Bruce Brown, same thing. Bruce Brown is a young player, so maybe he wants to chase that money a bit more, which no one would really feel harshly about. But at the same time, these guys are not getting a bigger role in any other team than the Brooklyn Nets. So if you want to try to win a championship and be a key contributor, that's your pitch to these guys. So that would be good for them. And then looking at the Boston Celtics, a team they beat in the first round, they had a bad season by their standards. It's lofty standards, don't get me wrong, and some of the reasons for them having a bad season were out of their control, but at the same time, still a bad season nonetheless. They brought in a new coach. They brought back Al Horford, which will be big. That'll be big for sure. But I actually want to see someone else start instead of Al Horford. That's Robert Williams, in my opinion. There's other things the Celtics need to do. Re-sign some players, get some players through free agency. Yeah, sure. But I like the idea of Robert Williams starting because you look at the timeline of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. They're still young. Robert Williams is young as well. And I think going forward, Robert Williams can pass. Obviously, Udoka made an emphasis on trying to improve the playmaking and the assists of the team. Williams is a good passer. He's not at Horford's level, but in terms of his shot blocking, 9 blocks in Game 1 against the Brooklyn Nets of the playoffs. That's the kind of performances you will see more regularly. Maybe not 9 blocks every other night, but he'll give you 4 or 5 blocks on any given night if he's getting 30 minutes a night, which is what he needs to be. At the end of the day, if you're going to rotate with him and Horford starting and Williams is coming off the bench, as long as Williams is getting 26 to 30 minutes, that's what I want to see. And then speaking of another big who has struggled with injuries but has a lot of upside, Jaren Jackson Jr. and the Memphis Grizzlies. There was a time when people were questioning Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. Maybe we'll still question that again one day, but as of right now, we need to see Jaren Jackson Jr. back at his best. He's another health guy, similar to Anthony Davis, because last year, 17 points a game on nearly 40% from 3 on over 6 attempts. The guy was a legitimate sniper from deep. He was also blocking shots. He was switching out onto guards. He did a lot of things that would suggest he had all the makings of a modern day, very good, big, and this year, he didn't show that. He was coming off an injury. We know the reasons, but we still need to see him get back to it because last year in the bubble, similar to Porzingis, 25 points a game in the 3 games he played. These were high-stake games as well. He was looking legitimately like a star, which is great in his second year. Gives you a lot of hope that he'll come back in his 4th year, coming off hopefully a healthy offseason, and that's what we need to see. Just stay healthy, Jaren Jackson Jr., get into the flow of things, work on that shooting again because the shooting confidence did seem to dip once he came back. Also, obviously gets into foul trouble a bit. A few things that he needs to work on in terms of with his game, but his health is the main thing. So get healthy. That's Memphis's biggest challenge. Then looking at the LA Clippers, another Jackson actually, Reginald. I want them to sign Reginald. Will they sign Reginald? Well, that's going to be tough because he is going to be demanding a lot of money, rightfully so. He deserves it. He also looked the way in his interviews, the way he was talking, it seems like he might be on the way out, or maybe he was just so appreciative of the Clippers. It could be both, it could be one, it could be either. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's any guarantees Reggie comes back, a guy that you can focus on that'll be more budget friendly, but also a hugely impactful postseason player. Nicholas Batum, you need that man back for sure. His versatility, his flexibility, his shooting, just level-headed, makes the right decisions, gets in the passing lanes, shoots the ball, makes the extra pass. Nick Batum, man, that's the guy you want. That's the guy a lot of teams will want. So it's not going to be easy to hold on to him, but you got to keep him with the allure of winning a championship, the allure of all of these things. We took a chance on you and no one else wanted you. Whatever you did to do, I don't care. Could keep Nick Batum. Reggie Jackson would be lovely, and for obvious reasons, man was averaging nearly 20 points a game in the playoffs on great efficiency, but Batum is probably the more reasonable signing of the two, and I think he's really important as well. And then looking at the Denver Nuggets, obviously Jamal Murray's health goes without saying, but I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record for these next few teams. Just get some defenders. Easier said than done, but when you've got Jokic, don't really worry about the offense these guys have. As long as they can cut to the rim, stand still, and shoot the ball, which most NBA players can do. Not everyone, don't take that for granted, but most NBA players can do. As long as they can do those things, Jokic is going to help you. Jokic is going to get you good looks. He's going to make sure you get those opportunities. Then defensively, you need to make up for some of his shortcomings. Not the best defender in the league by any means. This team has always struggled defensively. I've always maintained this every single time. They need to get better defensively. And everyone always says, they need to get better defensively. It's that simple. I'm sorry. It's the harsh truth. And, well, they can look to get better defensively. And it's probably going to have to come with some pretty cheap guys because, yeah, they don't have a ton of money, I don't believe, and they don't have a ton of options to work with. But Avery Bradley, Abdel Nader, Otto Porter Jr., these are guys that might not be fashionable names or names that you want to hear, but these are the kind of guys that you need on a championship level team. And then looking at the New York Knicks, Derrick Rose, man, he was the best player for them in the playoffs. You got to re-sign him. He just brings so much to the city, the team. Sounds a little bit corny and cliche, but it's the reality. And those are the kind of players you need on your team. Those guys boost your team in more ways than just their on-the-court performance. It's really the reality. And getting back Derrick Rose, whether it's $20 million over 2 years, 25, that's probably the max, I'd say, because although he's a very productive player and a very good player, still, injury concerns, age, just limits his contract a little bit. So that's going to be the reality. You don't want to spend too much on someone who still has those injury concerns. As I said, it's unfortunate, but it's the reality. But if you can get him back, I think he wants to be in New York. There's been no signs that he doesn't want to be there. He seemed happy once he left Detroit to go to New York. So good for you, D-Rose. You played well, so you can't be mad. He was absolutely fantastic, and they need to keep him because coming off the bench, starting, it doesn't matter. The dude makes a huge impact on the court and just for the team. It's a big difference. So looking at the Miami Heat, Duncan Robinson. Speaking of guys teams need to bring back, Duncan Robinson, they need the three-point shooting. They need the dribble handoffs with Bam Adebayo. They need the gravity that he has. They need everything that he brings. They need all of it. All of it, because the shooting is an issue for them. And it's going to be an issue that they can't overcome if he leaves. It really is. Unless they find someone in a similar ballpark to him, which I don't see where that's going to come from, they're not going to be able to replace that kind of shooting. They just aren't. So they need Duncan Robinson back. They need some other guys back. They need some defenders. Similar to the Nuggets, like I said, they need guys that can defend, that can shoot. It's the playoff kind of team build. It's a little bit simple, but it's the reality. But Duncan Robinson is the guy that I would be looking for the most in terms of everything he brings. His handoff with Bam. Bam Adebayo needs to be more aggressive as well. He needs to start shooting threes, which he said he would. So hopefully he can do that. Also, I mean, the Miami Heat's bench was dominating against Team USA for Team Nigeria, so maybe they'll be fine after all. Gabe Vincent, maybe he's the key. Precious Achiuwa, blocking Kevin Durant. Who knows? But Duncan Robinson would be a nice start. Nick Batum as well, the Clippers guy. I mean, yeah, maybe they get him instead. He would be a nice option for sure. A lot of options out there for the Miami Heat. They need to go find one. And then the Washington Wizards, well, like I said, broken record. Well, it's the same thing. get some 3-and-D guys. You know what Russell Westbrook needs on his team. He needs guys that can shoot, he needs guys that can defend. This is a team that was surprisingly good defensively the second half of the season. Once Daniel Gafford came there and they had some rim protection, Robin Lopez, Kareem Abdul-Lopez, man, was absolutely insane with those hooks. You keep him, you keep Daniel Gafford, all of a sudden your center rotation looks pretty solid, and then defensively you get in some wings. Hopefully Rui Hachimura takes another step. There's a few things to like about this team, but I would like the idea of them signing someone. Maybe it's in a sign-in trade with like a Kelly Oubre Jr., bringing him back. I just thought about that now. Could be a little bit of a tricky situation. John Collins could be an option for sure there. There's some decent options there. I don't mind the options they have. Even in the draft, they've got the 15th overall pick. I saw it with the Detroit Pistons this year. They got Sadiq Bey at 19, and he came in and was an NBA-ready 3-and-D guy. So there are options out there for the Wizards to explore, whether it's through the draft, whether it's packaging up picks, any of those things. There are options. They've got options to explore, and just get some 3-and-D guys. Thank you for watching.